What's up, Metro? My name is Will. This is my partner, Ben. Welcome to episode 2 of Numbers and Beyond. We got a lot of great topics to get into today, but first I want to get into some of these special recognitions that we have. My partner, Ben, just had a baby. Named Dawson Lee.
Yes,
Welcome
sir.
to the family, fam.
Yes, sir.
I also want to mention Justin Thomas, who just won the RBC Heritage Tour this past weekend. $3.6 million. Enjoy your winnings, Louisville's own.
Yes, sir.
Sir, let's get into this NFL draft.
Oh man.
Let's get into this NFL draft.
There's a lot.
You want to start off with the number 1 draft pick, Cam Ward?
Absolutely.
Cam Ward to the Titans. What does this mean for Will Levis?
Yeah, well, I believe that Will Levis will not be a Titan for long, or he'll be on that bench.
Copy that. I say the same thing. Will Levis definitely had an underwhelming year last year. It was kind of a tragedy on most points.
I mean, they got the number 1 pick for a reason. I'm just saying. It's the Titans. They didn't exactly produce much of anything. They were not a highlight team by any stretch. So, deservingly, they have the number 1 pick.
So what else do they need? Because, of course, it's not just going to be Cam Ward. They had problems running the ball. They had problems defending the ball. They had problems all around, pretty much. It wasn't just Levis. We can't just put it on him.
No, it's never just the quarterback, right? The quarterback position, you are at least offensively, and maybe even overall a little bit, you are the team leader. They look to you for guidance. You control the huddle. You control the snap count. You start everything going into play. However, you got to have a running back that's producing. You've got to have receivers who are getting good routes ran. They're getting open. When you got Traylon Burks as pretty much your primary receiver, you start to really you have that, and then you have guys like Colton Dowell, Van Jefferson. They're good, but they're not really good. Mm-hmm. And he needs a receiver, which I kind of, for Will Levis, going into a second year, for him to be that starter, he would need a good receiver. He also needs an offensive line that's going to protect him. Mm-hmm. The Titans have a good defense, don't get me wrong. That's probably the biggest thing for them, I think, right now is their defense, because last year their offense was underwhelming. Yeah. At the running back position, they had Tony Pollard. And, well...
Tony Pollard didn't do what he was supposed to do last year either. Rightfully so. It was his offensive line that didn't do what they were supposed to do. Right. But Tony Pollard had an underwhelming season last year, and we can't deny it.
Right. And, he came from Dallas, where he benefited from an offensive line that produced. Now, granted, he was also in a situation where he was, well, let's put it this way. Dallas has an issue on how they play offense. They can't determine when they want to run and when they want to pass half the time. They're just kind of all over the place. But I think that the running game would have to really step up too. So I think Cam Ward will be a good addition to their offense. I think he might be a different, bring a different style of play.
They're talking about Cam Ward as the next Patrick Mahomes. How do you feel about that? We're talking about greatness at a young level.
Well, we have Patrick Mahomes, who has quite a legacy already.
At a young level.
I think whenever you put that type of pressure on a quarterback, telling them that, they could be the next Patrick Mahomes, I think you put a lot of unnecessary pressure on them. A quarterback just needs to come in and do their job. They don't need to fill somebody else's shoes. They don't need to be somebody else. They need to be able to lead their team. Being the next Patrick Mahomes would also, in my opinion, require them to have built the team around him. Look what they handed Mahomes, right? You had Tyreek Hill, you had Kelsey, you had a good offensive line. That defense was good.
But he made it through without some of those players.
He did
the following year.
But again, that goes to, part of it is that was over time. Each year he got better, right? So when he's lost these weapons, looking at even, for example, last year and the year before, he kept losing more and more of these weapons that he had on offense. It gets hard, if you don't have the experience like he does and the skills that he does, Not saying that Cam Ward doesn't have those skills, but the experience he definitely does not have. You're not going to easily take a team that's kind of thrown together and go to a Super Bowl. It doesn't happen very often.
Okay, so you're not seeing a Cam Ward Super Bowl first year out.
I'm not seeing the Titans as a Super Bowl contender, or even for that matter, a playoff contender, or even really competitive in that division. I mean, right now, the Colts, they're going to do okay, I think, but you got the Texans, and then you've got, oh, goodness, the Texans, the Colts, and then the Titans.
Before we get into number 2, I do want to ask this question. Did you see anybody in the draft last night, like any team that took somebody that was like game changer? They're about to go to the playoffs at the very least. Did you see any draft picks like that?
Not necessarily. The reason I feel that way is a lot of the picks that were made were filling specific positions. Teams that have that are not necessarily looking to, like, obviously, like, for example, right? You know, you've got the Titans take a Cam Ward, right, at number 1. They're not necessarily going to be that team, but they're filling spots that they need to build on for the future. I mean, Jumpty went to the Raiders, right? Like that's a move that, you know, is a building for the future, but it's not necessarily a move that guarantees you're even a playoff team, really. I mean, we could talk about our number 2 pick now, even, you know, with Travis Hunter. I mean, the Jaguars, they have Liam Cohen coming in as a coach, which is, you know, a change up for them, something they need. But, you know, they haven't made a huge change to their roster. You know, Trevor Lawrence is still their quarterback, you know, so they're taking a guy like him and they're putting him in there, which I know you have some thoughts on him being drafted and some things you want to talk about. But
very much so. With Travis Hunter, do you think they'll play him as both sides? Like, do you think they'll let him do what he wants to do out there?
I think in the NFL, which he was impressive, don't get me wrong, when he played with Colorado. Like, he was really impressive. But I don't know how it's going to work in the NFL. It's a lot faster. They hit a lot harder, really. The games are, I feel like they're going to be more challenging, and I think they're not going to want him to play both sides of the ball consistently. One, you wear down quicker. Attrition sets in. You start to struggle to keep up with it. And then obviously you also have a higher injury rate. You have the likelihood of just seeing a decline in what a production that you need if you're running, you know, receiver, and then.
In my opinion, Trevor Lawrence needed some more offense for his offensive line. We needed just a little bit more of, hey, let's focus on defending our star. Because Trevor Lawrence is a star. Let's be clear. He's had some, you know, low years here lately, but he's not underperforming. He's just not being defended properly.
You're not going to have a guy who's playing receiver and corner in pretty much every snap, you know, going out there catching, you know, 2-3 touchdowns a game for sure. Not likely, at least. You know, I get he's got a lot of drive. You know, he talks about how hard he works, and I don't doubt it. You know, everything he does is, you know, to put that effort forth, but you're not going to go out there and then catch a touchdown and then catch an interception and then go back and catch a touchdown and then go back and catch an interception. Like, it's just...
Hey, let's be clear. You can do it.
You could,
but...
You
can do it. I want to see you do it, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, well... If we see that, it's not like we're not going to love it.
Oh, for sure.
But...
I don't think
realistically, you're right.
I don't think the percentages are on his side.
And I really want to see what they're going to do for Trevor Lawrence to make sure that they protect their franchise. I want to move on. You mentioned Ashton Gentry. Do you think Gardner Minshew is what they is? Do you think they should have took a quarterback? Because honestly, there's a few teams that should have taken a quarterback this last draft, and they just didn't. They took defensive tackles, and do you think that was like a snub to most of these new quarterbacks coming in?
I actually think that the Raiders made made a decision, maybe based a little bit on the hype. I don't know. It's tough.
Hey,
They
the
need a
hype
quarterback.
is real, though.
He's a,
Genty he's worked his weight in gold right now. He can pretty much do what he wants. He was in the Heisman running. He was the Heisman runner up. Genty can bounce in and out, and it's not like he's replacing him off top. But
right.
we need somebody that we can bounce in and out with because the backup wasn't doing that. Without Abdullah or whatever his name was, they weren't doing anything on the run game. So I'm just wondering if Gardner Minshew has enough to actually make some offensive plays now.
Gardner Minshew has been underwhelming his entire career.
I agree.
He has never really. He had one good year? I think it was his first year when he took over with the Jaguars, and he had that the whole mustache thing, right? Like that started right about then. It was a big thing, and he had a really good short little run. I think that's the year they went to the playoffs, if I remember right. Yeah. But came into the equation. He showed a little bit of flash, right? But then after that, it just died off. And he just kind of has that backup type. Really, that's what he fills roles for, is being a backup. But him being in Oakland not Oakland now, Las Vegas. Being in Las Vegas, I'll never quite give up Oakland on that. But being in Las Vegas is crazy. Yeah. I don't think he's their quarterback, and the fact that they passed up on several quality candidates is mind-boggling.
Okay. What about the Jets? The Jets just signed Justin Fields over the offseason this year.
Yeah.
They got rid of Aaron Rodgers, got them a Justin Fields, and now they have seemingly completed their offensive line. Like, it should be set for this year with the next draft pick, Armand Membu. Just got them an offensive tackle. He's a beast.
He is a beast.
He performed extremely well during this college season, and the Jets really have a strong offense. Even with Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he actually did that bad as bad as what they were saying last year. He turned it on when he needed to, and he just didn't turn it on enough. There was better teams out there. That's about it. But with this new offense, because of course they're about to center around Justin Fields now, and they just pulled an elite offensive tackle out, what do you think they're about to do this year with the Jets?
Drafting him, I don't think necessarily gets them to the playoffs or the Super Bowl especially. However, I think the more that you give Justin Fields an offensive line, I think the more you see him having the opportunity to either throw or run, right? Like, you look at Justin Fields when he was in Chicago. When that offensive line held, he did really well. But then as the season wore on, right, like he would start running more. His arm, he didn't even really rely on it. He takes off more than anything. He's a scrambler at that point. I think in Pittsburgh, let's be honest, I think some of that was also the fact that they went and got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
Yeah, and they were pretty much competing at that point.
So. Yeah, and they couldn't figure out how to use either one of them properly, and that offensive line was not good. With the Jets, I think they have the potential. They need to add a few key pieces, I think, still on offense. I think they still need another good receiver. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the offensive line is good, and it might even be great now. Mm-hmm. However, you're also you're talking about a position, even for this guy, where injuries are common. And that's going to be the thing that I think they're going to struggle with the most, is that even for him, remember, he's got to stay healthy. And Justin Fields, really, he needs that. The running game needs that. Everything for the Jets to take a guy like him and put him into that offense, it's going to have to happen.
Okay, I can see your point there. We're gonna move on to the Browns picking up an offensive tackle in Mason Graham, instead of which it really grinds my gears. They had one of the worst quarterback showings last year, and they did not pick up a #1 draft pick potential in Shedeur Sanders. Why are you focusing on defense when you need a quarterback? Your quarterback, Jameson Winston, or whatever his name was, got chased around last year. Like, what are they thinking? What are we? Does anybody over there on the this is my question for you. Does anybody over there on the Cleveland Browns staff actually know anything about football? And can you answer me that?
I have no idea.
Okay, I thought not, because this is my problem. Why on earth do you pick? You didn't even pick up an offensive player,
No.
and you had an abysmal offense last year.
Yeah.
You picked up a defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. Where are they going? Let me know. Where are they going next year?
I think they are going for the #1 pick. I don't know what that's going to look like. Probably a linebacker, but anyway.
They didn't even need the #1 pick. Shedeur Sanders was still up at number 22. He didn't even get drafted last night. They had every opportunity to grab a new quarterback. Hey, let's build our offense around this.
Yeah, look, the Browns offense, honestly, there's not been a lot of drafts the Browns have ever had, in my opinion, where they've made that great a lot of decisions, that great of choices with their draft picks. After all, their quarterback drafting history, look at a guy like Johnny Manziel, you see where he's at, where he's not. And Baker Mayfield, no, don't get me wrong, Baker Mayfield's actually done all right, right? Like, he's actually turned it around. But once he left the Browns, right? The Browns are where quarterbacks go to die, right?
Let's move on.
guess.
We can't stay on stupidity.
No.
The Giants. They took Jackson Dart.
I was just getting ready to mention that.
They took Jackson Dart. At first, they took Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter it was a nice addition. I thought they were going to go offensive off top, but they didn't.
Didn't need to. They played it out.
Yep, they played it out pretty well, in my opinion.
Yeah, they got an elite edge rusher, and then they just picked up a quarterback.
Yes. I think they did perfect with their picks last night.
Yeah. There's not a lot to say. I think honestly they're gonna. My only concern would be with Jackson Dart. Out of those two picks, that he would be the one I'd actually be more concerned about. I've seen something where he was interviewing or talking with John Gruden, and he almost seemed a little flippant about it. Like his snap count, he just does a little. That's it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of odd. I thought that was kind of interesting. His work ethic is something that I think that's been questioned a little bit. It ain't like he interviewed bad like Shedeur Sanders supposedly did. There's a lot of teams that were saying that he just had an attitude about himself, but it wasn't quite like that. But there was, I guess, some questionable things from him. So. It might be something that with his age and stuff that you have to look at, coming in, he could potentially take some time.
Okay. With the Bears, we got Cole Kmet. Is he being replaced as tight end?
We're almost at 30 just on the draft.
Okay.
Copy that.
Is Cole Kmet getting replaced?
They picked up Colston Leveling.
Yeah, I saw that.
Elite tight end, once again, somebody that played perfect last year.
Cole Kmet was decent last year.
Hey, I think Cole Kmet actually performed pretty well. And then you got Roma Dunze.
Yeah, okay.
You got Caleb Williams, who is a pretty good quarterback. I think he proved himself almost pretty well last year. I mean, it's the Bears. You got to look at them. What is their height right now? And I think they performed to their height last year. That's what they could do, and that's what they did. It's the Bears, sir.
Yeah.
We got to get into these playoffs.
Yeah.
With the Milwaukee Bucks and the Pacers. Pacers leading 2-0. What do you think?
I think they're going to win this with not much effort. Look, Giannis has done well, right? Like he's put up points. I think he's like averaging like 35 points a game, I think, right now. And I'm not even mad about it. Like it's let's see, I think it's in here somewhere. But the rest of the team, not so much. It's not. They're not defensively performing. They're not. I mean, Giannis can play both sides on that, but the Pacers. Halliburton's doing really well. He's a team leader. You know, he gets the ball spread around.
He is. I didn't think he was gonna perform as well as he's been doing. I didn't think the Pacers were going to perform as well as they've been. But
they came in with a passion, and I think, ironically enough, they were. I think Halliburton was voted the #1 most overrated player, I believe it was, coming in, and yet look where he's at.
I completely agreed with the analysis, but once again, happy to say that I'm wrong. Let's see where the Pacers go during this playoff season.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Thunder and the Grizzlies. Oh my gosh. The Thunder are easily the scariest team right now in the league. 100% with a 3-0 lead against the Grizzlies. Last night, they played phenomenally in the third and fourth quarters. Abysmal in the first and second. Where does that leave other teams in the league where even if they're down by 20 some odd points going into the third, doesn't matter. We're still coming back and we're going to win by a nice little margin too.
Well, so I think it comes down to the caliber of the players, right? Who steps up? Who's going to take on that, almost that mentality of, all right, yeah, we're behind, but we're gonna turn this around. It takes a lot more to rally in the NBA. I mean, we've seen it. They'll get on a nice little run. They might get like a 9-0, 10-0, something like that going on. And that can work. We've seen that in a few games so far this year in the playoffs. But the reality of it is a lot of times, as we see, once you go up, it's hard to get, for the other team to come back. Yeah. But, you get the right team, it's not impossible. It happens.
All right, then we're going to talk about the Rockets and the Warriors with this 1-1 tie going into the next game.
So, in my opinion, I think the Warriors are going to turn this. Obviously, taking a loss in game 2, it's not quite as pleasant. You win the opener, take that second game loss. You might have to think a little bit what went wrong, tinker a little bit. But honestly, I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal. I think they're going to turn it around. I mean, you got Steph Curry. That's enough said right there. But I mean, the reality of it is that I think the Rockets are a good team, but they just don't have every piece. Like we kind of talked about last week, they're not really completely all together there. And I think that's what's hurting them is that they're not exactly put together.
They are a rookie team going up against a vet team. Eventually, they are going to falter in some places. I'm surprised they took the last game. But me personally, I'm taking the Warriors. It may take 6 games. It might take 7. But the Warriors are going to make it pretty much past them.
I think they take it in 6. I think the Rockets will win another game, and the reason I say that is, the Warriors are, like you mentioned, it's a bit of a veteran team. They might not go full throttle every single game, and the Rockets actually really do perform very evenly with them. It's not a bad matchup by any stretch. I mean, it's not really any different than watching the Nuggets and the Clippers. They're very evenly matched.
Let's move on to the Lakers. The Lakers in Minnesota is turning into a nice little grudge match.
It is.
At 1-1, we got Luka Magic, LeBron James, Austin Reeves. All of them, they are performing on all cylinders.
Disagree.
I think they got exactly what they needed to get off.
Disagree.
Their chest with game 1. Game 2 came in, slapped them up. Slapped them up. That's what they needed to do, and I think that's exactly what they did.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Ben.
Luka may be performing on all cylinders. but not everybody else.
I only named 3 players. I didn't say everybody.
And LeBron ain't performing on all cylinders.
Yes, he is. He's performing on all the cylinders he can. He's 40. What other cylinders he got? What are you looking for out of this man? He's 40.
Okay.
He's performing on all the cylinders he got.
I give
Austin
you that.
Reeves, one of the great 6 man of the year this year. He's not even a 6 man, and I'm calling him a 6 man. He's like Kenny. Yeah, I know you've seen that movie, right? The Denver Nuggets and the Clippers, with the Clippers leading 2-1.
I give you this. Jokic is definitely Denver, right?
Thank you. That's all I'm saying.
But that man can play, and you know what? I give it to him. They ain't had a game yet that's been bad. They're very neck and neck, and honestly, they're one of those teams that they can toss the lead back and forth. One of the few things I can say about them is that if it's Jokic versus the Clippers, by all means, he's doing mighty fine, and he's.
No, he's not.
Hey, agree to
faith.
disagree.
I got faith in Kawhi and Harden.
I've never
They're
seen
about
him
to take this series.
I've never seen a man quite like Jokic. He can just kind of stand there and just whoop on a 3 and swish many times. The man is scary.
This series,
Look,
in a nice little fashion.
Listen,
And
Kawhi
I
and
can
Harden are going
guarantee
crazy.
it.
They're going crazy. Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to take the series. I think it might go in 6 though.
We're gonna get into the Kentucky Derby, sir. Who you got? We got so much festivities going on in Louisville over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a busy time of year for Louisville for sure. Derby it's not just an event. It's a way of life around here. Honestly, my entire life I grew up. You know, when I lived in Louisville, you know, like over half my life, I guess. Actually, now that I think about it, Derby was that time of year everybody looked forward to.
Sir, I have lived up the street from Churchill Downs since I was 13 years old. And before that, my grandmother lived in the house that, she had up the street from Churchill Downs since my mom was 6. So, pretty much, Churchill Downs has been all the festivities have happened right next to my house every year for as long as I can remember. I'm looking forward to this year. I'm thinking this year is gonna be a nice little addition. We got all types of things going on just for the Kentucky Derby. We got Thurby. These are
the days that people know right here. You know, Thurby, the Oaks Day. That first race on that day is at 11. You know, that's a 1.5 million purse. I mean, you got the actual Kentucky Derby on Derby Day.
I can't wait.
Is the day. The gates open at 9, by the way. So I mean, it's the 151st running, which is really cool. Last year was really cool. They had a big 150th event, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
Who do you got on Derby Day? Who's your pick? Who you taking?
I go with journalism.
I gotta go with a nice little underdog myself and say the Sandman. The Sandman has performed well in his last few outings, and I'm believing he can do the same during the Derby. He might just pull it out.
If I'm gonna go with an underdog, I mean, Publisher is not a bad way to go.
I agree. Rodriguez might just be one too.
Yeah, a second. Yeah, I mean, obviously when you look at the numbers, it talks about their speed and stuff like that. There's several different things it takes into factors. So I mean, you've got different things you can look at to say, okay, that might help them be better. But at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to just how that day goes.
Honestly, it's not just about the horses. It's about having fun.
Yep.
It's about bringing your family out and making sure that they enjoy all the festivities.
And the hats.
The hats are always epic. I love Derby time. I think we're gonna enjoy it. I think we're gonna have some nice little time around Louisville. Make sure you come out, enjoy the festivities as well. To everybody out there in Metro, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you come back next time. Thank you, Metro.